This is Stefan Klenk for Sure Local. I'm here today with an amazing guy. He has done so much. He has caught over 11,000 baseballs. That is absolutely stunning. I don't think I could ever do that. And he's gone to so many baseball games. Please welcome to Sure Local, Zack Hample. Zack, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thank you for the nice intro, and it's great to chat with you.
Absolutely. Same here. So tell our audience a little bit about yourself, what you are about and what you do.
I describe myself as a professional baseball nerd. I've done a ton of baseball writing in the past. I've written 3 baseball books. I wrote for minorleaguebaseball.com for a few years. But the thing that's always been my driving force has been catching baseballs in the stands at major league games. And I got my first ball when I was 12, and it was just nothing more than, a hobby, an aspiration, a dream, even years before that. But I figured out some tricks along the way, and I've stumbled into turning that into a career. And now the main driving force for me, and actually for the last 5 years, has been YouTube. So I am a full-time baseball YouTuber.
Now, how did you get into doing this? I mean, how did you begin catching baseballs at such a young age? Because I have to admit, this is something I would never imagine doing. And for you to catch over, what is it now, 11,000 baseballs? What is your total so far?
The up to the minute number is 11,831. And to be clear, that does include batting practice and other warm-ups, toss-ups, foul balls, home runs. If a wet baseball is lodged underneath the tarp and I get a groundskeeper to retrieve it for me and he hands it over, I count that. The home plate umpire might hand out a few baseballs after the game when he walks off the field. Those count. So really any baseball from a stadium, but obviously the ones during games are the most meaningful, and home runs in particular are the most exciting. But yeah, it just began with my very first ball. I remember it. And I was an obsessed 4-year-old or 5-year-old watching on TV, and I'd see fans catching balls. The cameras would zoom in on them, and it just looked like people were having the times of their lives. And I wanted to experience that. And I went to games for many years before I got one. And even then it was very slow going. But then I figured some things out. I was able to go to games on my own living in New York City. I'd already been riding the subway to school by myself when I was 12. So when I was 14, I got permission to go to Shea and Yankee Stadium on my own on school nights, as long as I woke up and got my work done. So that's really when things took off, and I just went nuts with it.
It sounds like you had a very supportive family that was influencing you to do this.
Well, yes and no. I'd say they were more enablers than supporters. I was not well-rounded as a youth. There was really only one thing in the world that I cared about, and that was baseball. And if I was not at a baseball game, I was miserable, and I let everybody know it. So I think my parents kind of had no choice but to just be like, fine, go to the games. Like, I guess they probably figured there are worse things that a teenager could get into than just being obsessed with baseball. So I think they reluctantly let me go to games, but it's hard to argue with it now that it is my full-time living. But yeah, there were a lot of years in there where they were worried about me. I wasn't worried about me, but just not having that much fun with life because I didn't have any friends, couldn't get along with kids. I was really depressed and just bummed out in the winter because there was no baseball. So it's been a weird journey to get to this point. And now my favorite time of year is the winter, when I don't have to deal with baseball. So go figure.
You do spend a lot of time traveling to stadiums and determining where to go. That has to be a very difficult for you to figure out how to manage your schedule like that. How do you figure out which stadiums to go to during the regular season? Is it based on the players? Is it just based on the teams and how they're performing? How do you figure out which stadiums you're going to go to next?
It does have something to do with the teams and how they're performing. The teams that are doing worst, that's who I want to see, because the crowds are going to be smaller and I can run around more and there's more empty seats and I can catch more balls, and my videographer can sit one row behind me and get better shots and he's not crammed in. So I get I get endless messages from people between emails, tweets, YouTube comments, Instagram. I mean, you name it. And people are always like, oh, you should roll through Atlanta because the team is playing great. It's like, man, they won the World Series last year and there's 42,000 people at every game. I don't want to go there. That's going to be horrifically annoying. And I will try to go to Atlanta. I think maybe late in the summer. I might go to all 30 stadiums this year. I mean, if I want to, I can. Like, this is what I do. But it's like, do I really want to go to all of them? Because some of them are really annoying. There's an unfortunate trend where stadiums are opening later now than they used to. I mean, the Baltimore Orioles open 60 minutes early. You basically do not see batting practice there. The Cleveland Guardians, I think 5 days a week, they open 60 minutes early. And then on the weekends, they give you 90 minutes. You can't even see the Guardians take batting practice. Guardians fans, tough titties for you. Can't see your favorite team. Want to see Jose Ramirez, MVP candidate, warm up? Sorry. So it's just not fun really to go to those stadiums. So I avoid those places. I dumped my Yankees season ticket this year because they changed their gates to 90 minutes. COVID was the excuse. Now we're moving on with our lives as if it doesn't exist, but the Yankees kept their same crappy gate policy. So can't see Aaron Judge take BP, can't see Giancarlo, can't see Joey Gallo, three of the biggest power hitters in the game. Yankees have more money and more fans than God. And it's just like, why should I go there? It's just so, it's like that influences decisions. I used to love going to Yankee Stadium, but so that affects it. I try to avoid bobblehead games, championship ring presentations, fireworks nights, like anything that's going to draw a ton of people. I know that that's exciting for baseball fans, and I am a fan, but I'm trying to put out interesting videos. And if a game is sold out and I can't move, it's just not going to be that interesting. When I go to Cincinnati and there are 11,000 people and you can get in 2.5 hours early and catching 10 balls there is like a bad day. Like, that's where I want to be, not Busch Stadium with 45,000 fans, although the Cardinals have been great to me this year. And I have a nice connection with Anheuser-Busch and they give me tickets. So it's like all these things. I might have a trip planned and then cancel it at the last second because it's raining in one city, but I can drive to another. I was supposed to fly to Denver tomorrow, had flights and hotels booked, just canceled that because there's too much stuff going on here in New York. So, it can take me an hour or two just to figure out a few games to go to based on all these factors. A player might be going for a certain milestone home run. And it's like, you know what, we were going to be here this week, but you're free, I'm free. Like, thinking about my videographer, screw that. Let's go try to catch this dude's 300th career home run or 1,000th hit or whatever it might be. So I don't announce my schedule anymore, in part because it's always changing, and also because it's become very, very difficult for me to function at stadiums just because of the sheer number of people that are constantly approaching me, which is fun and a tremendous honor. And I never dreamed that I would be in this position, but I'm just one guy. And sometimes there's hundreds of people looking for me. So that's another reason that I keep my plans secret, just for my mental health sometimes, but it's just a wild thing that I do. And, it's 12-year-old me, I think my head would have exploded if I ever even imagined like a tenth of what I get to do now. So I'll always be thankful for that.
But you do make a very interesting point, and that is that stadiums are opening a lot later. And it does seem like it takes the fun out of the sport a little bit.
For sure. And actually, a few months ago, maybe, I forget exactly when, but I tweeted something which was just basically like, if baseball wants to have more fans and attract more kids to the sport, stadiums need to be opening earlier, not later. And I was a little bit more specific in the tweet. I used up all 280 of my characters, And that tweet went viral and I pinned it, and it has more than 4,000 retweets and almost 10,000 likes. And it's a shame that none of those likes are from baseball executives or people who make the rules. And I understand that there are challenges with staffing stadiums now, and COVID did throw everything off, and teams, I guess, don't want to pay their employees to get there early. It obviously must not pay off financially. You would think, well, if they open earlier, fans have more time to buy stuff. But if that were true, then I guess teams would be doing it. But I'm sorry, every single baseball owner is a billionaire. Open your damn stadiums earlier. It's ridiculous. Stop being cheap. Accept the fact that you will lose a little money to make hundreds of thousands of people happier. And I think it will pay off in the long run. I mean, they already charge $8 for bottled water in some places. Like you can't get your staff to show up half an hour earlier. It's crazy. So that's like that, and the no backpack policies are like two of the main things that are really making it a lot less fun to be at games. You know, all the protective netting, all the stupid rules like runners on base in extra innings, and no more intentional walks where they actually throw the pitches because that can lead to wackiness. They're talking about banning the shift, and it's just like, I really unfortunately think that baseball is going in a lousy direction. And I wish I were the commissioner, although I don't know if I'd have time to still go to games. I'd make time, but you know, it's such a beautiful sport, and there's, I think, more talent now in Major League Baseball than ever. And there's just a lot of anti-fan policies out there, and still a lot of attitude from stadium security guards who just forget that this is supposed to be fun, and stop micromanaging people and going on power trips. So what I do is I try to make it fun, and I show how people can maximize their time at stadiums and, you know, move around to different spots, and how to connect with the players, and the craziest food to eat, and the cool places to wander inside the ballparks. So that's what I'm all about. I love bringing people along for the ride, but it's getting increasingly annoying. So I'm trying to navigate that.
Well, I will tell you, you put out some of the most amazing videos when you go to stadiums and you're showing people the experience of being at a baseball game. That still has to draw even more fans to you, and having the interaction that you do with the young fans in particular, that must bring a lot of joy as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, part of me, when I have a crowd of people waiting for my autograph, part of me is like, who the hell am I? Like, I'm nobody. You want an autograph? Like, go get the players. Like, I feel like the worst major leaguer, like a quadruple A player who's struggling for a cup of coffee and then like gets to pinch hit in the 8th inning of a blowout. Like, his autograph is cooler than mine because he actually played Major League Baseball. And kids sometimes ask me to sign their jerseys, and I get a lot of fan mail. People send baseball cards of major leaguers and ask me to sign them. Like, I caught Mike Trout's first career home run, and I snagged A-Rod's 3,000th career hit. The number of Mike Trout and Alex Rodriguez baseball cards that I get in the mail that people ask me to sign, I mean, it's crazy. I feel like I'm ruining these cards, but I'm happy to do it. But then part of me remembers that, you know, I heard recently that the number one dream job among American children is not movie star, it's not rock star, it's not professional athlete, it's not doctor, it's not being an astronaut, it's being a YouTuber. Like, that's the strange reality of our times. And so when I keep that in mind, then it makes sense why people are so obsessed with me, because I have their dream job. And these kids, it's a lot of kids that follow me, but I have grown-up fans too. But I mean, kids in particular, they get into bed at night with their phones and they're watching YouTube, and I might be the first thing that they see in the morning or the last thing at night. And I have hundreds of videos, hours and hours of content. So in a way, they're getting to know me more than they would get to know the players. And what I do, I think, seems more accessible to people. Like, you can dream about being Aaron Judge or Mike Trout or Shohei, but is that realistic? But if you think like, I want to go to all the stadiums and I want to be a YouTuber and I want that to be my living and I want to be friendly with the players, you know, it is possible. And I think that's why people connect to me so much. And I get to go to all the stadium. Like what I do is really cool. And I don't mean to be bragging about it to you. I'm trying to, I really appreciate it. And I'm trying to understand why it resonates with so many people out there. So I do try to take a step back and be thankful for what I get to do. And it really does make sense at the end of the day. So it's a weird life that I have. It seems to a lot of people that I don't work, or like, oh, it must be nice to not, you know, have to work, or it must be nice to go to baseball games for a living. Or people are like, how do you afford all this travel? Like hotels are expensive and flights are expensive. And it's like, yeah. And I'm paying for my videographer as well. I'm paying for travel for 2 people, but it's because I work every second of every day during the entire baseball season. There's not a moment that I'm awake that I'm not working on stuff. And I spend more time editing and dealing with videos than I even spend inside baseball stadiums. If I didn't have to touch video footage ever again, if the videos could just magically be perfect after I walk out of the stadium, I'd either go to 200 baseball games a year, or I'd have a life during the baseball season. But it's endless stuff, and I've signed up for it. But you know, it really is a lot of work and effort. But a lot of people enjoy the videos, and I am supporting myself, so that really does make it all worthwhile.
And that's an aspect that I think a lot of people don't realize, is it does take time to travel and go to these stadiums, and putting that effort in to being as successful as you've become, but also trying to manage everything at the same time has to be difficult.
Yeah, I struggle with moderation. It's a good thing that I've never been interested in alcohol, because that would be very problematic. But it's like, yeah, it's all or nothing with me. I take things to extremes, for better or worse. And you know, I've been obsessed with catching baseballs for a long time, and now I'm more obsessed with YouTube and making that a success. So we'll see how long I keep doing this. I keep thinking about quitting or scaling things back, and every winter I just get into this off-season mode, and it's like, I have friends and I can eat salad and I can sleep as long as I want and I can exercise and look at all these other things in the world that I enjoy doing. I can go on trips that don't have to do with baseball. And it's like, I'm going to scale things way back this season because I'm having too much fun now. And then spring training comes around and opening day comes around and I get sucked back into the vortex. So, you know, I have a couple of editors working with me this season, and I thought, great, that's going to take some of the workload away. I'm going to have more time to myself. No, all that meant is that now I'm doing even more videos and going to more games. So I'm so bad at moderation. I need professional help probably, but you know, I'm still making it work, but I don't quite know where I'm going with all of this. My mom is like, it would be great if some TV network hired you. And it's just like, I don't need that. I'm making more money now than I probably would if I were on TV. I mean, that could be debatable depending on what the job is, but it's like, what's the point of TV? To have a voice, or to, you know, spread my message, or to be seen, or like, I mean, that's happening right now with YouTube. So I keep finding ways to outdo myself. And I always think, it always feels like it can't possibly get any bigger or better than it is. And then some weird thing happens. So I don't know. I'm just rolling with it for right now. If this is what it is, that's fine. If something else happens, that's fine. You know, if it ends tomorrow, that's fine. I've had a good run. So yeah, trying not to stress it too much.
You're very passionate about the sport of baseball with what you do. Is there a science to catching baseballs at stadiums? Because I know when you go to these games, you go to batting practice, you go out to, you know, right center field, left center field, and you wait for the players to show up, or you go near the bullpen and you wait for them to, you know, to throw up balls or to sign autographs. When is the best moment to catch baseballs out of all the games that you've gone to? At what moment do you see yourself, you know, going up to these players and catching balls, or do you just wait for the home runs to pop up and, you know, hope they land? You know, what is this? Is there a science behind it?
Definitely. Branch Rickey, the executive who signed Jackie Robinson, has a great quote. I think it's my favorite quote of all time, which is simply, luck is the residue of design. And I try to channel that in what I do. And, you know, I go through stretches where I won't catch a home run for 2 months, and I just feel like the universe is against me. And then I'll catch 2 in an inning, or 2 in a game, or 2 in a week. And it's like, okay, the numbers have evened out. It's sort of like being a player, like the line drives are going to get caught, and then you break your bat and hit a blooper, you know, over the shortstop's head. So I try not to get too down when things are not going my way, but I just try to put myself in the right position day after day. I know what the players' tendencies are. You know, Major League Baseball is very consistent. You know, everybody pretty much throws in the mid 90s, give or take a few miles an hour. All the players are like, you know, within 6 inches in height and, you know, 20, 30 pounds in weight for the most part. It's like, if you were going to watch high school ball or college ball, the talent level from player to player, team to team could vary wildly. But MLB, it's pretty consistent. Baseball's all kind of travel the same distance. You got your monsters that hit them 480 feet every now and then, but there's a lot of patterns and consistency, and you get to know what's possible and what's likely. And for me, you know, I play the righties and lefties, whether, you know, who's pitching or who's hitting, that can affect it all. I look for the empty space, the rows, the walkways, the standing room, the tunnels that connect the concourses to the seating bowl, any place where I can move left and right. And the temperature can affect things. The wind can affect it, how strict security is, how big the crowd is. You know, there's just like all these factors. So I try to keep it in mind. And the beauty of baseball is that every stadium is different, not just the dimensions to the outfield walls, but especially the configuration in the stands behind the walls. So that all comes into play. And every game is like a game within the game for me. I don't play fantasy baseball because going to games and catching balls is my version of fantasy baseball. And it's just fun to think about each situation and each player and what the manager is going to try to do, what the pitcher is going to try to do, what the hitter is going to try to do, and looking up at the flags, and the wind is really blowing. So you know what? It's crowded down in front. I'm going to move back 10 rows where it's emptier, because if this guy lifts one, it's going to carry because of the wind. Like, it's hard to think like that, but I try, and I'm still making mistakes and still learning things after 30 plus years of catching balls. So it never gets old. The travel gets old, you know, waking up with 2 hours of sleep and rushing to the airport and flying to another city and dealing with 20 other things that are sort of peripheral, and then waking up with 3 hours of sleep the next day and going to the airport, and then the flight gets canceled and I'm supposed to meet it like, there's a lot of stress that gets old. But baseball never gets old. Even with gates opening later and no backpacks and too much protective netting that makes it impossible to film, because baseball will always be my number one passion. And no matter what the powers that be do to mess it up, it's still going to be an incredible sport. And I'm always going to love it. And I'm always going to be thankful that I get to do what I do. So I just try to capture that, bottle it, put it in my YouTube videos, and share it with people. And yeah, the number of emails and comments that I get from people telling me that they watched my videos and used my strategies and they got their first ball, and it's just like the greatest feeling ever. And or fathers and sons being inspired to go on road trips together because they saw my videos and it strengthened their relationship. Like, doesn't get much better than that. So that's a big motivating factor for me to keep going. Just, it used to be the number of balls, like I got to catch this home run or get to 10,000 balls, whatever. But I think really the connection with people is the number one thing for me at this point.
When you brought up that quote, I thought about the history of the sport and how if you could go back in time and go to a particular moment in the game, it could be anything. It could be a World Series, maybe a monumental moment. What moment would that be for you?
I mean, I think the thing that stands out most for me was getting A-Rod's 3,000th hit. Nothing can touch that, just as far as the sheer insanity and excitement and beating the odds and being connected to a massive historical moment in baseball history. So it's hard to imagine surpassing that, unless like Mike Trout catches 800th home run someday, or I don't know, and it happens to be a walk-off grand slam. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I also think about what historical moments it would have been great to be there for. I mean, maybe like Babe Ruth's first home run or the first All-Star game catching his home run. I think it would have to be a Babe Ruth moment. But yeah, I mean, I just, it's hard for me to even watch baseball on TV or watch highlights, especially because all it is just like home run after home run landing in the seats. And it's like, man, when I was sitting there for 3 games last month, they didn't hit anything. And now they just hit 6 home runs into that section. And I drive myself crazy. So, I see historical highlights of whatever, Eddie Murray's 500th home run or Mickey Mantle's 500th home run. And it's like, oh, could I have caught that? Would I have been sitting there? Even yesterday, Aaron Judge hit a walk-off 3-run homer to win it. And I'm sitting there like, and I saw the highlight after and I didn't know where it went. And I'm sitting there like, not to right field. Cause like my season ticket used to be out there. And if he hit it right to my spot, I would have lost my mind. And then he connected, sent it out to left field. And I'm like, right into the bullpen where nobody can catch it. I mean, I want people to catch those balls, but it stings a little bit when they hit them right where I woulda, coulda, should have been. And it's like, yeah. So thinking back on the big moments is really fun. Thinking back on the ones that I missed, I could have with a little better luck caught Jeter's 3,000th hit. That'll always drive me crazy. It's rare that I drop baseballs when I get if it's within my reach, I'm basically going to catch it. But listen, I tell myself that even Hall of Fame Gold Glovers make errors every now and then. So I try to go easy on myself, but I am a perfectionist. So yeah, keeps me up at night. I dream about catching balls. Sometimes they're good dreams. Sometimes they're bad dreams. And it's just like, if you play too much Tetris, you're seeing shapes everywhere. Like, oh, I could fit an L piece next to the couch next to the bookshelf. And it's just like, that's me with catching balls. I'm just like, I'll be at a wedding and imagine like if they throw the bouquet, like I'm sitting on the aisle, I could jump up and like, it's crazy. So I need the off season to unwind and reset my brain every year. So there's a little glimpse into the madness that is Zack Hample.
Hearing you talk about that, I was thinking about the video from 2019 with the Phillies after they signed Bryce Harper, and you were at the night game and you caught his second career home run with the team. And that had to have been a memorable moment as well.
Tremendous. And, I had a seat out in right field. It was so crowded that I actually left my seat and was wandering around. I was with a new videographer that day. I wanted to get food for the YouTube video. Like, I don't even know if I would have eaten if I were there on my own, but it's like, I think it's maybe it was my first game of the season or second. And it's like, I should do a food segment. I think I even missed one of Bryce Harper's at bats. I was just like wandering in the concourse. And then we went back and yeah, I mean, Bryce hit one of the highest home runs I've ever seen. It looked like, on TV, it looked like he was going to hit it out of the stadium over the upper deck in right field. And I think the cameraman was even fooled panning up, but it landed in the 100 level in a thick crowd of people 5 feet to my left. And it just happened to deflect right to me. And I was like, yoink, thanks very much. So, you know, there have been many home runs that have landed within 5 feet of me, and I did not get the ricochet. Albert Pujols' 2000th career RBI, a home run on May 9th, 2019 in Detroit, solo laser beam right over my head. The seats were empty. I probably was playing a little too shallow. And all it had to do was just like hit the middle back of a chair and ricochet to me. Or I mean, even a decent bounce, I would have gotten it. But, you know, it stayed right where it landed. And, you know, this guy with no glove just kind of scrambled over and picked it up. And so it's just like, I didn't get the luck on that one, but I got the luck with Bryce. So again, it all evens out. I've spent 8 games this year trying to catch Bobby Witt Jr.'s first home run and Adley Rutschman's first home run. And they didn't do anything in those games. Even when I had an empty outfield walkways, like, can you just please hit the ball? I had the same thought when I was sitting in Baltimore when Mike Trout was going for his first career home run in 2011. And what do you know? He happened to hit it into my section and I caught it. So you just got to go enough times, accept the bad luck and the defeats and the bad ricochets or a guy being in a slump. And then eventually they're going to hit one your way. I feel like every 15 home runs that I get, one of them is going to be very special. That seems to be about how it works out. So I'm due for another one. Not sure if it'll be this year, but it's going to be soon. I feel it.
You have a new movie out, Zack Hample versus the World. Tell us a little bit about this movie and what it's all about.
This is a 95-minute documentary about me. It's a feature-length film. There have been a lot of short documentaries, but this is the real deal, which is kind of wild to think that I'm worthy of having a movie made about me. There is a 13-minute version of this film that came out a few years ago. It's on MLB's YouTube channel and has like 2 million views, but this is the longer one that's been in the works for a long time, and it's finally out. Came out right at the start of the season. And it's just basically about my weird ass life and baseball shenanigans and adventures and everything that sort of makes me me. A lot of the stuff that we've been talking about, but there's a lot of people who are interviewed, you know, not just my mom, but some baseball insiders. A former 3-time Major League Baseball all-star who knows me well was interviewed for this. You know, Darren Rovell was interviewed, you know, other famous fans and media people. So it's pretty cool. There's a ton of footage of me in stadiums catching balls and actual game footage, but it's not just about, you know, the balls that I catch. It's just sort of, it's like the peek behind the curtain at my strange life and my thought process. And it was made by a very, very talented filmmaker who's, you know, produced and filmed and edited stuff for Netflix and Major League Baseball and ESPN and Billy Joel. I mean, like, this guy is so talented as a storyteller, and it's truly a work of art. So, you know, it costs a few dollars to rent, but it's available on, you know, Amazon Prime and Apple TV and the Microsoft Xbox store. I think you can even rent it through YouTube. So hopefully people want to check it out. And I will say that a portion of the proceeds are going to my favorite charity. It's called Pitch In for Baseball and Softball. I've been working with them for years. In fact, when I snagged A-Rod's 3,000th hit and gave A-Rod that ball, the Yankees, as a thank you / incentive for me to give that baseball to A-Rod, donated $150,000 to this charity. So it's been like my number one focus in terms of giving something back in the baseball world. They help basically underserved kids and communities get equipment and get out onto the field to play baseball. So I think it's a great cause. So you will actually be helping kids play ball if you watch this movie. So that's my sales pitch, but it's really good and it's really fun. I think it's kind of impossible not to like it. So there you have it.
What would you say to a young fan who is thinking about getting into the sport of baseball, to somebody who is going to the games and catching balls? What advice would you recommend to the next generation of players and fans?
I mean, just from a catching baseball standpoint, I would say show up early for batting practice, bring your glove. And there's basic strategies, just like have rosters of both teams either printed up if you want to go old school, or just have them bookmarked on your phone so you can quickly reference and identify the players. It helps to bring gear like a hat and or a shirt or jersey of the visiting team, because you'll get more attention from them and they're more likely to toss you a ball. I don't recommend wearing Astros gear at Yankee Stadium or any team's gear other than the Yankees there, but use your head. But just as far as enjoying the sport and getting into it, try to go often. If you're hoping for something special to happen at a game, you want to catch a ball or meet a certain player, I wouldn't expect it to happen the first time you go. And I do get a lot of messages from people who are like, I'm going to, my first game at this stadium, and what time do the gates open, and when should I arrive, and where should I enter, and what seat and what section is the best, and which players are the nicest. And it's just like, whoa, I understand where you're coming from. I didn't have anybody's YouTube videos to watch before I went to my first games. Like, I figured it out. In fact, I enjoyed, if I was going to a new stadium, pre-YouTube, before there was all this pressure to like make everything perfect every time I went, I would intentionally not watch games on TV at that stadium for the first month or two that it was open. I don't want to see it. It's like not even watching a trailer for a movie that you're going to watch. I intentionally went in there blind, and I'd go in and I'd be like, I have no idea. Oh, this is what the outfield looks like. Well, I guess that's the best spot. I didn't know the distances to the outfield walls or where the bullpens were. Like, I just went and figured it out. And that was part of the fun. So I think a lot of people now have this need for instant success and instant gratification, and they get very disappointed if it doesn't happen. I was watching your videos and I went to a game and I didn't catch. It's like, okay, well, I didn't catch a ball for 6 years from the time I was 6 and went to my first game until I was 12. So enjoy the process of learning and figuring it out. Enjoy the struggle. Not everybody gets a participation trophy, and yet, you can catch a ball basically every game. I show that I do it if you're smart enough and use all the tricks. So do your research, but also accept that there is a learning curve. So I think that's my advice. And ultimately, it's supposed to be fun. Don't be too disappointed, and don't feel like you're the king of the world if you do catch one, because this game will humble you, whether you're a fan, a player. So just try to stay level-headed, no matter what your goal is when you go to a game.
I think that's great advice for us all. And you also have a website as well. ZackHample.com is the website as well. And what can we find there?
My website, which, by the way, it looks a little smoother right now on desktop than mobile. So if you're going to check it out, pull it up on your laptop. I'm working on it along with a zillion other things, but it's basically my way of playing show and tell with the world. There's just a whole page of photos. I invented the photo timeline before Mark Zuckerberg did. There's photos from every year of my life going back to when I was first born. And you can scroll through those hundreds upon hundreds, a lot of non-baseball stuff. There's a FAQ section that's like 9,000 words. There's endless lists and stats about the baseballs that I've caught, with many, many photos and links, and every article that's been written about me. And you could spend probably a month on my website and not run out of things to see. I think there's like more than 400 pages on my website. So my guy that helped me redesign this site, he's like, I've never had a project on any website this big. So get comfy, get a nice cold beverage, pull up zackhample.com on your laptop and just get lost in it, because yeah, there's a ton.
And enjoy the ride.
Exactly. Yep.
Zack Hample, you're an amazing guy. I wish you the best of luck on your travels this season. And I want to thank you for spending a little time with us here at Shore Local. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. You're a great guy too. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for all the time. And yeah, it's always fun to get to tell my story and connect with folks. So I hope that people enjoyed all of this, and maybe I'll see some of you guys at the ballpark.